o'clock to the June 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Education. I would like to call the June 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Education to order. Mr. McCormick, can you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Trustee Mitchell?
Here.
Trustee Patterson? Trustee Miller?
Here.
Trustee Williams? Trustee McOwen?
Present.
Trustee Ning? Trustee Saunders?
Here.
Trustee White? Wanda, can you hear me? You're muted. I'll mark Wanda here. Trustee Torres.
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Do we have any communications from the public this evening?
There are no communications this evening.
Dr. Hamilton, do you have a report this evening or presentation?
I do. Good evening, everyone. I hope all is well. I do have some updates I'd like to share with you. And Madam President, if you will indulge me during my report, I'd like to make a statement in reference to the George Floyd matter. First to begin, I'd like to just reiterate that we are moving forward with our rezoning initiative. Kudos to our tech team. We have finalized the rezoning plan for the onboarding of the Mandela building as of now. And we are now able to address the overcrowding issues at some of our elementary schools, which I'm sure many parents will be pleased to hear. And I'll share more information with the board in executive session about some great news in that regard. And parents will be receiving letters confirming their new zone allocation within the next week or so. The software has been updated on the website, so parents can go in and put in their address, and it will let them know if they are in fact zoned for the new building. I'd also like to remind everyone that the school budget ballots must be received by June 9th. I want to reiterate that this budget has no implications, for a tax increase for local taxpayers. And this is something we continue to be extremely proud of. I've received about a dozen emails from community members applauding us for being able to do that. And of course, asking how in 7 years have you been able to continue to do that? I told them it's tricks of the trade, but I'm just about out of tricks. I'm very pleased that we're able to go out again with a budget with a 0% impact on the local tax levy. Mr. McOwen, there's your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a question. When were the ballots mailed out? We were going to do a robocall or announcement or something. I never heard anything, and I haven't received mine yet.
Mr. McCormick, you want to take that, please?
We were notified on Saturday that they were mailed, and we expect them to be in homes between today and Thursday, based on the delivery of the post by the post service.
Right. So basically, people have to turn them around immediately the next day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really important that people understand. As of now, they must be received by the 9th. There is a ballot box in the vestibule of the Ed Center that is available 24/7. It is a locked, secure box, and there are security cameras posted there. So if anyone wants to drop their ballot off in person, they can do that at the Ed Center at 165 North Columbus Avenue. I'm also pleased to announce that we will be reopening central office on Monday, June 8th. The staff will be working a modified schedule to allow for appropriate social distancing in the workplace. I've completed a plan and submitted it to the state, letting them know how we plan to protect our staff and what our protocol is to maintaining social distancing. And while the building will be open and available to the public, members will only be admitted on an appointment basis so that we control the number of people in the building at one time and reduce possible exposure. And we are asking people to please make an appointment before coming into the building, particularly those who will be registering or needing to register students or transfer students out. And I will be doing a Facebook Live next week on our registration process and a few other updates related to where we are, what our closeout looks like, what summer looks like, graduation plans and things of that sort. But central office will be open June 8th, and staff will be working a modified schedule, so we're not 100% staffed at any one time. But we have made provisions to ensure that people will be able to socially distance in the workplace. Both high schools will graduate on June 8th, and we will be sending more information out on that. But the plans are moving along very well. And again, kudos to the graduation committee for coming up with what I think is such an extraordinary plan. And in the matter of George Floyd, this is a very sensitive subject. I did send a message out to the district staff yesterday, I think it was. And I'm not going to read that whole letter. There are some excerpts I want to share in my comments this evening. But I wanted to make broader comments germane to our entire community that I think are important. So by now, I know everyone has watched the scenes from across the country and now the world following the horrific deaths of 3 African Americans, 2 during interactions with police and 1 while jogging in a local neighborhood. The killings of Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, Breonna Taylor in Kentucky, and most recently George Floyd in Minnesota have sparked protests and marches around the country. And we are now all watching these incidents while still dealing with the impact of COVID-19. For some in our area, I know these images may reopen some of the same wounds and thoughts we had following the death of Freddie Gray and Eric Garner, just to name a few. This type of violence should not be accepted by anyone. No one can argue that the number of police killings in the United States disproportionately affect African Americans. Despite making up 13% of the US population, Black Americans are 2.5 times as likely as white Americans to be killed by the police. It is clear now more than ever that we as a country must have open, honest, and authentic conversations about racism and its devastating influence and continuing impact, particularly in our educational systems. As a school system, we have and will continue to focus on equity for all students in Mount Vernon. This means we will advocate for tools to close the educational gaps and provide access to resources for all of our students. We will continue to have direct and honest conversations about institutional racism and practices and how we can break these barriers to have more open dialogue and opportunities for our children, these practices that have existed for far too long. I received several emails from parents asking me, and teachers for that matter, what should I say to my children? And our children are already scared and confused about the remnants of COVID-19. And now they see yet another outbreak that challenges every fundamental that a child has about basic understandings of safety and security. And I think it's important that we acknowledge the freedom of speech and protest. These are rights that are essential to every citizen, and our children must understand that. But we also have to be careful that our children don't grow up to fear the police or to think that everybody is racist, because that's not true. And we must be honest about the blatant injustices that exist and are deeply rooted in our history. We have an opportunity to embrace this teachable moment and allow our children to ask questions and express their fears and insecurities in our current climate. We need to explain why civil disobedience is occurring, and while teaching our students about acceptance, tolerance, patience, and embracing diversity is so important. It may even be appropriate to help our students understand that sometimes civil disobedience is just, but they must also understand that violence and destruction are never acceptable. And I continue to express that if bigotry and racism is learned, then so can love, tolerance, and acceptance be taught and conditioned as part of the human experience. We cannot allow our children to try to understand these events alone and without providing them a safe place to ask questions. And I know these are going to be some tough conversations and not everyone will be ready to hear them, but we must move forward and listen to our students. Often our students are ahead of the adults, and we have to have these conversations, and we have to provide them with a safe environment and resources for this to happen. So let's use this opportunity as a teachable moment for our students. And to that end, it is the position of this administration, and I'm sure the members of the board, that any conduct that any people, regardless of their race, which intentionally objectifies or discriminates against another human being is unacceptable. and we are committed to doing our part to make sure that our students and our educational community understand this as a non-negotiable. Next week is devoted to emotional wellness, and what a perfect opportunity to open the dialogue with our students about what they see on television and on the internet, and how we can try to make some sense of it and empower them to be better people as they learn from these horrific images that they're seeing. That concludes the superintendent's report. Madam President, you're muted. I see you're talking.
Apologies for that. So thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for your report and for your much needed words at this time.
Thank you. I do have a presentation I'd like to share this evening, fitting to where we are in this nation. Our MBK initiative is still alive and well. We are actually planning a forum with some of our MBK fellows to help digest and unpack this topic. But with us this evening is our district liaison, Brother Arthur Muhammad, who has been such a champion for MBK. So without further ado, Brother Muhammad.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. And interestingly enough, the MBK started after the riots in Baltimore and St. Louis, in Missouri, pardon. And Barack Obama, our president, wanted to find out why young people were so angry. Why did they emote and react the way they did? And his findings found out that it was a result of systems or years of injustice. And so MBK was started. And of course, MBK started around 6 milestones, which the district embraced 3 of the 6 as main milestones. Just to refreshen you, milestone number 1 is getting a healthy start and entering school ready. We wanted to embrace early childhood literacy, and this program is headed up by Linda Tarantino. And our young people are exposed to words, they're exposed to shapes, sounds, colors, before they even enter into pre-K, so that when we begin the learning process, they will already be on point. And of course, milestone number 2, is ensuring that our young people are reading at grade level by 3rd grade. And the way we attacked this prior to Corona was we had the MBK peer reading program, where we would team 6th and 5th graders with struggling 2nd grade readers. And this would help them to enjoy reading by seeing their older peers read to them. And it also provided them an additional mentor. And then, of course, under the leadership of Dr. BC, we had our MBK summer reading camps, where we focused on 2nd and 3rd graders who were struggling in math and reading to strengthen their scores so that we can be on point with milestone number 2. And then, of course, number 6 is where the brunt of my work is done, keeping kids on track and giving them second chances. I'm blessed to be in about 12 of the schools in the district, and we run all types of programming starting as early as 3rd grade all the way up to high school. We do reading circles, empowerment programs, trips, one-on-one counseling, summer jobs programs. And it's a beautiful thing to just help young people, give them an additional layer of support, and it goes a long way. And obviously, because of the COVID-19 coronavirus, some of that work has been curtailed, but what we still do is do wellness checks, not only on the students, but their parents, because a lot of the parents are going through things that are affecting the young people's mental health as well in terms of lost jobs. Just to let you know, MBK Mount Vernon is a part of 3 alliances. Of course, the New York State My Brother's Keeper, which is an association of all of the MBKs around the state that have committed to the program. We culminate every year with conferences where our young men get an opportunity to meet their peers around the state and develop a brotherhood that is a lasting brotherhood. We're also part of the Lower Hudson Valley MBK, which is about association of about 12 school districts from Yonkers, New Rochelle, Peekskill, Ossining, East Ramapo, and so forth. We meet quarterly. So quarterly, we have Zoom calls where we discuss business, anticipating, the opening of school and how we're going to operate as a Lower Hudson Valley Alliance. And then lastly, the MBK Alliance, which is actually President Obama's foundation. We meet monthly with the MBK Alliance, and we were blessed in late April to actually hear from President Obama himself, encourage us to continue to do the good work, as well as inspire us during this Corona time, unfortunately. Now, the grant that we are active in is the Mbk Fellows Grant. It's a fraternity of young men who are in 11th grade, and it gives them opportunities to gain leadership experiences and develop service projects beneficial to the schools they attend. And so our two young men for this year is Mr. Michael Bahari and Daquan Fields. And these are two outstanding young men who attend Thornton High School. Michael Bahari will probably be the salutatorian, and he has earned a full paid 4+4 scholarship. The first 4 years will be done at Lehman College, and then when he graduates, he's going to go to SUNY Downstate Medical Program, and it's a full ride. So
that's great.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And Mr. Daquan Fields, I would say this: when he first entered the program, he was so shy. He was kind of timid, and by exposing him to leadership and young men from around the country, it gave him a confidence that he's never had before. In fact, the picture that you see, we were in Albany at a Stand and Deliver, where these young men had an opportunity to have a TED Talk style public speaking opportunity, and it was phenomenal. But he has a $60,000 scholarship for Manhattanville College, where he's going to be a biomed major. And let me just go back. Their service project, they had a special interest in mental health, and they were researching and finding out how could mental health help be included in the recreation department and community centers and youth centers, because so many of their peers are going through mental health issues and don't have the adequate services. So I'm proud of these two young men who are going to be graduating this year. And so next year, our 2021 fellows that will be inducted next year are Mr. Martinez Jean Baptiste and Mr. Emil Quiles. And these two young men right now are in the chamber. So they meet with 11th graders around the state. Right now we do weekly mastermind calls where it's like a reading circle. We go over this book called Mad Truth by Dr. Alfonso Wyatt, and they get an opportunity to read and read and give comments. And this is a picture that we took the other day. I always check on my guys. We were social distancing. We had the automatic camera, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we just dispersed. But these are guys that I'm mentoring, and I'm actually going to team them up with mentors going forward, so they have personal mentors.
Amazing.
Yes, thank you. I have been trying to lead the charge with my community connections with the food distribution in 3 ways. I'm a site supervisor at the Grimes location, where we give out breakfast and lunch every day from 9 o'clock to 10:30. And our young people and sometimes the parents line up. And what we're finding is that people from the community who have no affiliation with the school, they'll come towards the end and say, and ask us, can they have a meal? And it just keeps in mind the food insecurity that exists in our community. And so that's done on a daily basis. And then Adrian Sanders, of course, through your connection, we have the food bank that comes to Benjamin Turner. And so every time they come, Mike Policio gives me a call, and I organize the workers so that our people can be served with dignity and with speed and no drama. And I'm going to say this: when Rick brings out the call, And he says that it's going to be a distribution at 5 o'clock, but people start lining up at 1 o'clock. And when we get there at 5 o'clock, there are literally hundreds of people before the food truck even comes. And it just shines a light on the fact that our people are hungry, and that this work, that the relationship that you established and the commitment from the superintendent to continue this just shows that we are doing the Lord's work. And lastly, on the food distribution, through the work of the parent liaisons who have intimate relationships with the parents, when parents divulge that they're having trouble feeding their families, the parent liaisons will let me know. And through partnership that we have with the city of Mount Vernon, because they have a larger food pantry commitment, I will get as many meals or dry goods, any food available that they have, and I will personally deliver it to the parents with dignity and discretion, and it's going well. This effort goes a long way, and I'll always let them know this is from the Mount Vernon City School District. And lastly, I'm happy to announce that we're starting an Mbk Garden Club with the Mount Vernon Public Library. We're going to do a partnership. Oscar Davis, the president of the library, shared with me that he has a little parcel of land on the side of the building that he wants to do something with. And he knows that I'm an avid gardener. And he asked, would I be willing to teach some of the library goers, along with some of my guys, gardening? And I said, sure. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have those resources where we can tie gardening into literacy. And even though I will supervise it, everything will be read, understood, digested, and then implemented, from amending soil to building the beds to irrigation to sun, shade, understanding the components of gardening. And with this era of food insecurity, teaching them how to do urban gardening. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And we're going to talk about it this Saturday, and we want to roll it out for the summer so that the young people have something to do. And that concludes my report, and I welcome any questions. But before I do that, I want to thank Dr. WBC. We love her so much. She is the driving force behind getting the funds as well as compliance, and she's always there to help me. And of course, Dr. Hamilton, his commitment to ensuring that young men of color have as much resources and opportunities. He's gone through his own personal Rolodex to share some of his contacts, and our young men are excited every time he brings a celebrity through. And I'm very honored to have an opportunity to serve. Thank you much.
Thank you, Brother Muhammad. Your work and commitment is appreciated. I laugh when you talk about the gardening because, you know, you guys don't know, Brother Muhammad and I, we share pictures back and forth of our little personal green thumb. I think I still got one up on you, Brother Muhammad, though. Yes,
you do. I just got a new gardener, so we will see what battle next year.
But thank you for your commitment. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Brother Muhammad, do any trustees have questions for Brother Muhammad?
I do.
Sir.
Yeah, thanks, Brother Muhammad, for that report. I have two questions. The first question is, I know even though we call it My Brother's Keeper, that here in Mount Vernon, we've also made an effort to include young women in the program and support them as well. And I was wondering if you could talk about how young women are also involved.
Well, there are certain times that we do programming sponsored by My Brother's Keeper that we invite the young ladies, because the content or the subject matter, you know, goes both ways. But Dr. Hamilton has shared with me that he's interested of having a female version of MBK, not under MBK, where it could be female-led to deal with some of the specific issues that young women are facing today. And so, you know, we try to include as many girls as we can that's not specific to young men's issues. But we're looking forward to hopefully starting something up for the young ladies, because what we find is that in some instances, young ladies need second chances more than some of the young men. And so that's something that we look to develop.
We do have Girls Inc. We have a pilot program with Girls Inc. that, you know, did get interrupted because of the virus, but the hope is to be able to roll that out to all our schools, and that's a great national organization as well.
Nice.
My second question has to do with the gardening. I'm a big advocate of gardening as well, and it's great that the library has a parcel of land, but we already have raised gardens at Graham sitting there doing nothing. So if we're putting any district resources or energy or time or money into gardening, I personally would much rather see it done at Graham than someplace off district property.
I hear that, and all I need is a budget and access to a water. I have tools, and let's do it.
Let's talk about that. And you know, we have the GYMS program, which is a program over at the Youth Bureau for our young ladies. But I'm really very interested and committed, frankly, to doing something that is as deeply rooted in the culture of our district for our young ladies as MBK is. And I have reached out to some folks. We got a little derailed by some obstacles with some of the celebrities I had earmarked to lead this, not necessarily celebrities, but well-known people that the young ladies would know and be able to relate to. And they have agreed to volunteer their time to come in and work with our girls to some extent. So we just have to put this on track. And again, the pandemic kind of slowed us down a little bit with that. And there's so much traction with MBK, but we are definitely working on that. And part of the grant funds that I have set aside for the superintendent's discretion from Assemblyman Pretlow, that's what I want to designate some of that for. All right. That any other questions regarding my report or Brother Muhammad's presentation?
Brother Muhammad, I just want to say it was an incredible presentation, and it's great to see all the efforts that you're putting forward in the district. And speaking of gardening, while I don't have a green thumb, I was involved in the homeschool gardening initiative that we had some years back. And with Chris Reza, who was a retired teacher over there, he's still involved in that. And he was starting that to have the children were coming out all during the season. We had parents that were volunteering seeds and things like that. And the kids were learning that we're getting to come out every day. And you're absolutely right. It gives them an incredible ability to be hands-on, to see something grow and then turn into sustainable food, a sustainable resource of nutrients. So I think it would be great, as Micah said, to definitely reach out, engage our different separate schools that have land and space ability. At the time I was head of the PTA, so we had a budget, and I would definitely give parent liaisons. If you haven't already, I would talk to your PTA presidents and ask them, hey, do they have anything? Because you never know what teachers that are in those buildings who have capabilities that can reach beyond what a PTA budget can do. For instance, the teacher Chris Reza had his own connections. I mean, the guy's been in the game for so long, and he is also an avid gardener. So he was able to get the boxes. He built the boxes himself. And he had some connections to get the soil and things like that. They built a beautiful garden there. Unfortunately, they were not able to keep it as beautiful as it was. But I mean, listen, I think gardens in every school in our district would be a great idea if there's some open space for it. It just teaches so much, both for respecting the land and respecting what it's capable of giving us, especially from our children. Kudos.
Thank you. Not to mention it's therapeutic.
Yeah. Very therapeutic. I did hear that from Chris Reza many times, and the children when we did speak to them. And my kids too. My kids were there involved and they loved it.
And realistically, it's an easy way to social distance. I mean, we need more activities in the fall for kids to do outdoors where they can socially distance better. And gardening is the perfect one.
I say that gardening provides an opportunity to infuse not only reading into the activity, but it's another way to infuse other curriculums such as math and science and various other disciplines while you're having fun. And like Trustee I'm sorry. Trustee Mitchell said, it's a way for children to have fun and actually see the fruit of their labor and actually eat the fruit of their labor. And conceivably that might inspire and expose our students to pursue careers in botany or agriculture. So again, it's exposure, it's fun, and it's also engagement. Towards that end, given that we have so many schools, and we would love to see gardens that are run and cultivated by our students, is there an opportunity for volunteers that are not, from outside the district, people in the district? I'm sure there are lots of community members who love to garden, who are equally adept at it and can offer the resources and time. Is there an opportunity for that as well?
Well, I'm gonna put my feelers out. I didn't know the board was so enthusiastic about gardening, which is good. And we also have a phenomenal opportunity at Mount Vernon High School with that greenhouse. I remember when, I forgot his name, he retired now. He used to run the greenhouse and he used to allow me to put my tropical plants over the winter. So I wouldn't have to keep buying tropical plants, but you know, it's a great environment to begin growing from seed in April, March and April, in that controlled environment. So by the time early May comes, you can start going into the ground depending on what's the last frost date, and just understanding that life cycle, understanding what you can plant in the fall, how to make a hoop house. So what I do is I use plastic hoops, and then I have what we call greenhouse paper or greenhouse plastic, UV plastic. And what it does, it keeps the ground warm. And listen, you know, with the fall of the dollar, seeds may be the new currency one day. If you have seeds, you can take a tomato, slice the tomato, plant that sliced tomato in the ground, and a plant will come out.
There's a lot of here. Trustee White, did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying Lincoln School also has a greenhouse.
Nice.
And I don't know if you realize they have, but we used to, it was the first graders used to plant plants, and then we would make pesto with the stuff and use our own tomatoes. And the kids really got a good at it.
There's definitely, I'm sorry. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for us here in the district.
And the Graham Gardens will actually be prepared this weekend and ready for planting next week.
Okay.
Excellent.
Dr. Hamilton. Okay, did any trustees have any other comments or questions for Brother Mohammed?
Dr. Hamilton, I don't understand what that means. Ready to plant what? What are we planting in them?
The community has a garden over there. I don't know what they're going to be planting. I have no idea. But our job is to clean them out and get them ready. That was always intended to be a community garden. That was one of the commitments we made with the community there when the bond work was done at Graham School, was to outfit that with irrigation. But it's overgrown right now. So we're cleaning that out and getting it ready.
Is there irrigation? Is there irrigation
Yes.
there now?
Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay. Maybe we could get some people, I can talk to some people about, we could each like donate some plants. I mean, it's too late to start growing seedlings, obviously. I started mine in March, and my tomatoes are in the ground now, my little dinky ones, but it's the weather's nice, so they're coming along. But maybe we could get some people to donate some vegetable plants. It's been hard to buy stuff because the gardening craze is apparently, it's one of the things people are doing. But we could definitely get, as long as there's irrigation, we could definitely get some, some pepper plants and some tomato plants and get those in the ground.
My understanding, that's great to hear if it's really irrigated and get cleaned out. We've been trying for years to get a program there, and my understanding was always that it's not a lack of space, it's not a lack of sunlight or materials or anything else. It's a lack of manpower and willingness
There was
to turn it into the curriculum.
There was some miscommunication between the principal and available staffing, because the community wants to also make kids a part of it, obviously. Yeah. So there was some miscommunication about a staff member who was initiating that, and that person retired. So the principal was working to find somebody else who would take that on and work with the community and the students. So it could be a collaborative effort. So that's where the breach was, so to speak. And then it kind of fell by the wayside with the pandemic, and we lost the earlier part of the season.
All right, I didn't mean to derail the whole conversation and turn this into a meeting about gardening, but if we do have more details about who's leading that, I would like to know them.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think that should be part of our goals, right? I think to sort of create an effort that's district-wide and make it an annual calendar so that we know when March comes around, it's time to get those seedlings ready, right? So more food.
Yes, and also, I don't know if there's any regulations, but composting.
Oh.
You know, when food is either half-eaten apples, they can be composted and used to fertilize the soil, because soil conditioning and soil amendment is very important to grow, robust and hardy crops. But, we'll speak of that on another time.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's an effort, I think, that we could also maybe include other, areas of the city as well. Curbside composting is something that I've always felt very strongly about. And again, because so many of us have property and gardens, and finding really rich composted soil and the amendments sometimes can be really difficult during certain times. So if we can, act as a resource for ourselves and for others, it's just more opportunity for us. So thanks for mentioning that. I'm sorry, Trustee Miller, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I've got a bunch of ideas, but I'll talk to Brother Muhammad about it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think many of us will probably reach out to you afterwards. So thank you for your report, and thank you for.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so if trustees don't have any other comments or questions, we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is board member reports. And what I will do for this meeting is combine board member reports and/or committee reports. So if you have a committee report that you'd like to provide, or a board member report, if you want to report about some activity or experience or just something in the district, this is your opportunity to do so. So trustees, I open up the floor to you. Trustee Miller.
I just wanted to say that the event that Graham put on about how are you coping, I think it was last week, I'm not sure, but
yes,
it was absolutely astonishing and riveting. And I was just so impressed with the people who spoke, Lillian and others, but it was absolutely wonderful. And I think if we could kind of roll that out to some other schools, maybe use that as I'm sure you have plans, Dr. Hamilton, for next week, but for rolling that out as a template for what we could do on a regular basis, I found it to be incredibly uplifting. I thought the parents asked a lot. There seemed to be, fair amount of parent engagement, a lot of really interesting questions. And I just thought the format worked really well, even though it was a Zoom, it worked incredibly well. And I think it gave a lot of strategies, like very practical advice to our community members, to our parents, for both themselves and in their role as parents. So anyway, I thought it was absolutely outstanding. And I hope we can do many, many more of those.
Yes, I couldn't get into it. I tried to get in and could not get in.
You had to get an invitation from Dr.
I had an invitation.
And you couldn't get in.
And because the Facebook, through the Facebook book or something, and I just couldn't get in.
Oh.
Yeah. So I experienced some of that, and you have to have a Facebook account in order to get in. I think that's probably what you might have experienced initially.
No,
you have a Facebook account? Okay. Well, we can talk afterwards. Yeah.
Anyway, it was great.
It was great. And I have to tell you what I really thought was wonderful, that there were practical strategies, and there were also tactical resources that were provided. So there was a chart that was provided for parents to sort of, it's very similar to a sticker chart that you would create for a child to reward certain accomplishments, behaviors, or completion of tasks. And it was the same idea, but for parents. And I thought that was just a really mindful and readily usable resource that parents could use on a daily basis to help them manage whatever it is arises during the course of the day. I thought that those practical tips were really helpful, and I was happy to see that these resources were being offered for our family members. So thank you for sharing that, Trustee Miller. Anybody else have a report or committee information to share? Trustee Saunders. You're muted. We can't hear you. You're muted. Trustee Saunders, you're muted.
That's why no one could hear me. Can you hear me now? I've been trying to talk since Brother Arthur was on, and I'm like, oh.
Raise your hand so I can see you.
So I know I speak low, so I said, well, maybe they're not hearing me. But yeah, thank you, Brother Arthur, for all you do. I had my final meeting with the advisory committee for the counselors this year. Well, we reviewed all of our minutes from the previous meetings, and our final meeting was yesterday. We have a meeting every first Monday. So they discussed, discussed roles of counselors and, and what we anticipate to do next year. So the goals are for next year are to start areas that want to focus on analyzing previous year's data, the report cards, attendance, graduation rates, and online learning. And they also want to incorporate 3 SMART goals per level. They'd like to look at various methods in which counselors are providing supports, because I know they said some of them, they try to reach out to the students, and there's sometimes the parents need support, especially with this pandemic going on. So they need to at least touch, they're trying to touch each student individually, and it's hard to right now because they're used to seeing them in school. So they said they need sensitivity training. They need clear directives. They like effective communication, and they want more parental involvement. There's a lack of devices in the district. We know that. We're working on that. We talked about that. And limited knowledge for parents on training on how to use the devices. So we discussed all of that and what they want to do next year. And that concludes my report. I do not have a special ed report or wellness there. Thank you, Brother Arthur and Mike Felicio. There will be another pantry on Saturday at Parker. Okay, so expect that robocall from Rick.
Are there any upcoming committee meetings? Do you have any upcoming committee meetings scheduled?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Saunders, for your report. Are there any other trustees who would like to make a report?
Well,
Trustee White and then Trustee Munoz-Patterson. I can't see Trustee White. Okay, Trustee White. Okay, I'm not seeing. Trustee Patterson, do you want to speak then until Trustee White is available? Why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So we don't have a committee report for the audit committee. We're slated to have a meeting sometime in the next 2 weeks. We were slightly derailed by budget, conversations and the like. But I apologize for being late today. I was at the Unity rally at City Hall, and I thought it was important to be there. And it was really uplifting and really fantastic to see the community out there. So don't worry, I look like a lot, although I'm only 4'11", but I tried to, take up a lot of space. But yeah, so it was fantastic. And yeah, that's all I got right now. Sorry, I was late. I jogged home. I actually left in the middle. I'm sorry.
Thank you for going.
Thank you, Trustee Munoz-Patterson. We're glad you were able to make it. Okay, Trustee White.
okay.
Okay, there you go.
Can you see me?
No, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Two things. Teachers were allowed to the schools to clean up their rooms for 4 hours, 8 to 12 and 12 to 4. And after each
Trustee White, we've lost you. We can't see you or hear you. Okay. Trustee White? Okay, we're having some technical issues here. We can't see or hear Trustee White. So there, just give her a minute.
also attended a program
Trustee White?
on.
Trustee White, we missed some of what you said. You disappeared for a second. Would you mind repeating from the beginning what you were reporting?
Teachers were allowed to go in their classrooms out.
It's still not coming through clearly. I apologize, but there's something wrong with the audio. I'm not sure where it is. Okay. Trustee White, we've lost you again. I'm going to give you a few minutes to see if you can correct the audio. Is there anyone else that would like to report?
Keeps going in and out. Am I in?
The audio is faint. It's coming in and out. We're not hearing you clearly.
Okay.
Something's wrong with your audio. Try again. Try now. I think I just heard you now.
Just heard me again.
Try now.
Let's start. Thornton and Pennington building should be completed by July. So everything should be taken down, scaffolding and all kinds of work should be completed.
Okay. Thank you. Is there another meeting, committee meeting scheduled soon? Trustee White? No? Okay. We can't hear you. Maybe we can come back to you after. Trustee White?
All right.
Okay.
You don't have to keep going in and out.
Okay. All right. Then we're just gonna continue then. All right. All right. Are there any other trustees who would like to give a report? Trustee Miller?
I'm sorry, I forgot to say that the
That's fine.
Educational Foundation reached and exceeded its goal of $30,000. And yeah, I'm really happy about that. And so is the foundation. And, you know, from this initiative, which was obviously born from necessity, because we just formed the board like 2 weeks before the shutdown, or maybe a month before. We've really, with a lot of help from Rick McCormick, we've really been able to get moving, and we're very excited about what we might be able to do for the fall. I know we're arranging a meeting with Dr. Hamilton to talk about initiatives, but once I get some more data on the need for devices, we will renew and increase our efforts, including Rick, maybe some boosting on Facebook, talk about, you know, we got there, but we want to keep going because some of these business donations are huge. And there seems to be a great interest in helping our students. So I'm excited about that. And we're hoping to just keep going and maybe get up to $40,000 or $50,000. So.
That's great news.
Trustee Miller.
Go ahead, Trustee Saunders, go ahead, you can speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Miller, is your goal to help the district give every student devices? Is
Yes.
that the goal? Okay.
Yeah, the goal is to, well, the goal initially, when we discussed this with Mr. McGrath and Dr. Hamilton, we talked about, you know, the need was going to be maybe perhaps at least $70,000, $75,000 in addition to what the district was able to provide. And knowing how tight our budget was, we said, let's do whatever we can. So we've gotten to the 30, we want to keep going, but we're also interested in funding some of the other initiatives around the district. So I'll keep updating the board as we go along. It's been a little hard with the virus, but given where we're going and the incredibly robust platform that Dr. Gorman has built, and Mr. McGrath have built, I think that all of our students will need a device, and we need to try to find a way to get one for them.
So do we know where we are as far as each student with a device? I know we were initially given one per household. Where are we with the devices for the students? Do you know?
We're collecting that data now. We're actually sending out an updated survey to find out what the status is in the event that we're in a completely digital synchronized curriculum in September. So we don't have that data. We don't have updated data right now, but we're working on that. Through the help of the foundation, we do have another 100 coming to our inventory. The PTA has purchased, I think there were 10, I'm not entirely sure, but the PTA made a purchase, and we're continuing to add to our own inventory. So we just need to update what we have as we collect them from our seniors who have them.
That was my next question.
Right, we'll be collecting that. That starts next week. And then we'll see where we stand and start redeployment, our strategy for redeployment next fall.
Any other questions?
I wish I had enough money to give every student a device, but
We'll find the money.
yeah. Well, good luck.
Well, that's great work that you've done thus far, so keep it up.
There's the foundation has a great board.
Mhm.
I think the main thing is for people to reach out to maybe their own companies, the community centers within their own companies, and ask them if they'd like to make a small contribution. If anybody needs any information from me or what have you, I'm happy to. I'll get it through the board members at the foundation.
Yeah, I may take you up on that, please.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Trustee Miller. All right. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, we're going to just move to the other items on the agenda. Trustees? Okay. Not hearing any requests. So that will conclude our board member reports and / committee reports. First item on our agenda for review is item 5.1. Approval of Human Resources Memorandum number 15A, certified, and 15B, non-certified, dated June 2nd, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on this item? Give me a minute. Questions? No, hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, next item is business.
Madam President, hold on. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Madam President. I didn't hear Mr. Mitchell or Miss White's vote.
Ms. White, okay. Do you want me to call the roll again? Or just ask? They're-
You're muted, Rick.
Yeah,
Is that a yes one? Miss White?
Yes,
okay.
Miss Mitchell, you're muted as well.
You-
on my computer that said,
I said yes.
Trustee Mitchell said yes, okay.
Trustee White, until your audio, why don't you use a thumbs up or a thumbs down to record?
She's not visible. Is she visible to you? I don't see.
Oh, no, she's not actually. I see that.
She's not. I don't know whether or not, would it be possible for her to just indicate it in the chat function too?
Yes.
So Trustee White, would you be able to vote by just indicating in the chat function where there is yes, opposed, or abstain?
chat.
Yes, you just click on chat at the
Open to
bottom.
someone that doesn't. No.
Well, that actually came across clearly.
Now you can hear her.
Yeah.
We don't need a chat.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's try the next one. So the next item on our agenda is the business office. Item 6.1 approves business office memorandum number 24, dated June 2nd, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
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 Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion related to this resolution? I'll give you a minute to look at it again. Questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Can you unmute?
Aye.
Before we vote, I
Aye.
need everyone to unmute. Yeah, okay. Aye. Trustee Mitchell, can you unmute your,
Aye, sorry.
thank you.
Yep.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, next item, item 7.1, approval of school improvement personnel memorandum number 12, dated June 2nd, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second? Thank you. Questions? Comments? Discussion?
I have one question on the summer school, this virtual enrollment, which is a nice increase over last year. Has that cut off, or is that continuing enrollment?
We are still giving students an opportunity if there are additional youngsters after fourth marking period who need additional supports. We're open to that. But we definitely wanted to increase the numbers, obviously, because of the pandemic, and try to capture more students and maybe ramp up service.
Why are Thornton and Benjamin Turner still TBD?
We talked about that this morning. There was a decision not to offer it to middle level students. However, I reversed that decision this morning. So we will be offering a middle school component. So you will see that's why it says to be determined on there. That was a recent decision made.
Okay.
So Dr. Hamilton, will it initially was supposed to be 150 students per building? Now is that going to grow? Do we need more staff?
It's not, some schools are not at that 150 number. That's what we initially anticipated. We're not there in some buildings. Some buildings have exceeded that number. But the staffing is based on current numbers, not the full 150. So if those numbers increase, there may be additional staffing.
And if they decrease, it may not have to be.
Precisely.
All right.
The
I'm
numbers
sorry.
that you see tonight are confirmed numbers.
Okay.
Trustee Munoz Patterson?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a pip, but I don't see numbers for all of the buildings on here for the summer school. Is it my imagination? Like, I do see for the hiring tab, but for the first one, I don't see Pennington on here. I'm trying to think if I'm missing another school.
Yeah, I don't see Pennington on there
No,
either.
they're not.
Eagle eye.
Let me bring Dr. BC in. She can update us on that. Rick, can you bring? I can't do it from my end.
We have the teachers listed in that resolution. We just don't have the building listed on the.
Yeah, that's what I saw, the teachers. I just didn't see the kids.
BC's coming on. BC, can you hear us? There you are.
On.
Hi.
Right. Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
BC. Hi.
Hey. Yes, Pennington is there. Rick, look into the ones that we sent you last, because Pennington is there.
Yeah, it's
How many students?
And I sent a whole chart last week to you, Rick. Can you pull up the chart and show everybody how many students are in there? I think there are about 90 something kids right now on Pennington. But but those numbers are the current numbers right now. So they're still registering because summer school is starting for July 6th. So those are the parents who have responded.
Okay.
We have people to respond. So it's going to grow.
I just didn't want us to vote on it, and if God forbid they wasn't on here, and then we voted, something went hinky and haywire, and I'm just fine.
That's fine. I know I would never escape you guys tonight either. Meeting is a question. So that's so fine. That's okay. But it's there.
Okay.
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, thank you, Dr. BC. Does anyone have any questions while Dr. BC is here? No? Okay,
Yeah, I have a question. The
Okay.
attachment with the details of, the individual personnel at each school and everything. There's a lot of names on there. Some of them just say not applicable, or there's names with blank dollars.
Well, you have two set of tabs there. You have for the set plan and you have the summer school. So I don't know which one you're looking at.
7.1
we're
or
looking at the summer school,
7.2.
7.1. Actually, we're looking at 7.1.
Right.
Right now, I'm looking at nothing because my computer isn't logged in anymore. I don't know why. I was looking at it.
Yeah, 7.1 has the summer school and it has the set plan together.
That's right.
Oh, I see, Marco, like there's one that says not applicable, a substitute administrator. It's like the salary is as NA.
And then also, if you go to the very, very, very end of that whole list, there's somebody there who just says student.
Oh, that's the set plan. All set plans are supposed to have a student. You're not talking about the summer school thing. You're talking about the set plan. And under ESSA, you must have a student on your set plan.
Hang on. But I only see it for that. I don't see it for any other schools.
Yeah, it's only for the Mount Vernon STEAM Academy.
It's not listed for anybody else.
No.
Okay. Well, the reason
Well, actually, no, Thornton High School has one.
Yeah, I guess the reason why the other principals didn't put it on because the students, they're not, paid.
Just the high schools, though. No, that makes
Rebecca
sense.
Turner has one.
Right.
There's also no dollar amount associated with that either, right, BC?
They're paid.
Okay, so the consensus is the chart is missing a line for Pennington, but the attachment shows all the personnel to be hired at Pennington, just like it does for all the other schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So does Pennington need to be added to the chart?
I swear I sent Pennington. I swear I sent Pennington today. It's on it because the one that I'm looking at has Pennington there.
I see Pennington as I see Pennington.
Pennington is on the resolution. I think they're looking at the comparative data from the 2019-20 enrollment versus 2020.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
No, Pennington didn't have a summer school last year because the principal at that time said that he did not want to have a summer school last year.
Okay.
So he did not have one because of the what was going on, the construction in the building.
Okay.
So they didn't have
Gotcha.
one last year.
Okay, that's why.
That makes sense.
And I don't know if this is Dr. Hamilton or Dr. Bennett Conroy, but why do we have summer school for some it's like grades 2, like Parker is grades 2 through 5, and Holmes is 3 through 6, but some other ones it's K through 6.
Because you're targeting, when they look at their comparability report from the state, they look at the kids that they have to target.
Got it.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, yeah.
Oh, you can hear me? I just
Yes.
want to give congratulations to Dr. Bernard. She's been working so hard getting this virtual learning up for summer school. And I just would like to say congratulations and thank you for all your hard work. And bring in there.
Thank you, Trustee White. I
And I
appreciate it.
second
Amen.
that.
I was just gonna say that. I second that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
It's
Dr.
a
B.
life.
Thank you, Dr. BC. Okay, any other questions for Dr. BC on this resolution? Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And Dr. BC, if you wouldn't mind staying until we review the next resolution, in case there are questions about that one as well, that would be helpful. The next item on our agenda is item 7.2, approval of school improvement resolution memorandum number 10 dated June 2nd, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second, any questions or comments about this resolution?
So this summer camp is virtual, obviously, as well.
Yes, the whole thing is virtual. And as a matter of fact, we're piloting it for next semester or for September. That in case we don't go back in September.
That's
at least
great.
we have something that we can say that we can use.
That's
And
great.
I'm working in collaboration with New York State Department and 15 other school districts because they're doing the same thing.
Good.
So Dr. BC,
Mhm.
does it have to be virtual? Can they use packets as well for the summer?
Well, what happened, the STEAM part though, the STEAM part is going to be virtual, but they are getting a packet when we give out the computers, they're getting packets of like seeds and whatever they're going to use for their projects in their home that they can build those projects while they're Zooming on the computer. So it's a combination of packets and that for the STEAM piece.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. BC.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you.
Have a
Madam,
good evening. All right.
Thanks, Tracy.
Madam President, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Trustee Ms. Patterson, were you a yes or a no? There was a lag and I couldn't tell if you voted yes or if
I was a yes.
you were a yes. Okay, I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda for student services, item 8.1, authorization to hire staff to work for summer registration for the 2020-2021 school year. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
Second.
any questions or comments?
Yeah. So this is to hire the nursing staff for the next school year, just to be clear, right?
This is summer registration.
Dr. Hamilton or
Yeah,
Dr. Corman? do you want-
For summer registration, but how are we having nurses? All the registration is online and remote, so how are there going to be nurses?
The nurses have to download all that information and verify all of the health records for students for immunization. So they will be working on site.
Got it. Yep.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell, can you unmute your mic so we can hear you? Thank you. Okay. Did you vote in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
okay,
Aye.
all right. Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. All right. And the last two items on our agenda, item 11, number 11.1, authorization for the board president to draft correspondence. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Trustee McCowan, it looks like you wanted to say something. I just kind of went to vote. Did you have a comment to make? Trustee McCowan? Okay, then, all right. I'm going to take the vote again. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Next item, 11.2, appointment of school election inspectors for the election on June 9, 2020. Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Motion. Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about this? Does anyone have any questions?
Will they,
Trustee
will
White?
they be the ones counting the ballots?
I'll ask,
Who will be counting the ballots?
sure. Mr. McCormick, can you answer that, please?
The ballots will be counted by a combination of those election inspectors and district staff, including myself, Ms. Patterson, and several staff members who participate in the counting of absentee ballots each year during our elections.
What is the, sorry, go ahead.
Will candidates be allowed or no?
They will be permitted to enter, just the candidates, but what we will be preparing to do is live stream the count. So there'll be a live feed from the counting room over Facebook and on the district website
Okay.
to ensure transparency and
To me, it should be only the voters, I mean, the ones counting the ballots.
And you'll be counting them at home school, is that correct?
That's correct.
How are the results going to be communicated to the library? And
I'll
what
notify
library is involved?
the executive director of the library, and I'll also notify the candidates as required.
But if it's going to be live streamed, would you have the numbers running?
We're working that out. That's my hope, and we just have to see, because what it's going to be. Normally, there's one station, and when we do this at the Ed Center, so it's easy to project that information that you guys have all seen on election night. But because we don't know how many ballots we're going to get back, we're setting up to have 4 or 5 different counting teams to try to expedite the process. So I don't know, as of this point in time, exactly how that'll translate into a live feed of something on a screen. But we're going to do our best to have the counting process look as familiar as familiar to you guys as possible, what we've done in previous years.
I think the bottom line is, please be patient, people. It's not going to be like it normally is.
Nothing is.
No, it's not.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. That concludes our resolutions for this evening. And the next item on our agenda is our roundtable discussion. So I'd like to just start this off by talking about our board self-evaluation. All highly effective organizations engage upon an annual or periodic self-evaluation. And I think as a that regularly relies on assessment of our students' performance and our functions, operations, that we too need to assess our own performance. So I don't know if any of you had an opportunity to look at the sample evaluation instrument that was sent to you over the weekend for review. It's a NSBA template. I wanted to just talk a little bit about that because I think it's a practice that I know it's kind of heard sporadically in the past, but I would like to implement this as a regular practice. I think it's a best practice. It's something that we should do. I think it'll inform how we function as a board and also set guidelines for future operations of the board. So I'd like to just get your feedback if any of you had an opportunity to review the instrument. And mind you, this is just a template. We don't have to rely on it verbatim. We can create something that works for our district and for our board. But I wanted some of your input. So that's the first item I wanted to talk about. And the other item I wanted to talk about as well is customer service. During one of our earlier board meetings, early in the fall, I believe, or sometime before this period of isolation, we talked about customer service and we talked about how that was a priority for us as a board and as a district. I think we have held fast to that priority and the quality of service and the immediacy of our response to the needs of our district during this period of remote instruction. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that, but first let's talk about the board evaluation. I'd like your thoughts and some feedback. So if any trustees want to, Trustee Miller?
I looked through the voluminous document and I think it would be great if we could, I know it will take some effort, but if we could kind of skinny it down and really kind of customize it to the goals that we've set for ourselves and in terms in the district, and then maybe we could have maybe right now, some board members could suggest things that we believe we should be measured on. The accountability measures. So I just think maybe we need to just make it smaller, because I think going through something of that size is quite a task, at least for the first year.
I agree with you, and I just sent it out just as an example, but I think
Right.
your suggestion is a really good one. We could, even for this year, and given the amount of time that's left in this year, in this academic year, perhaps create a simpler matrix that we could begin with. But I think your suggestion that we determine what are the items that we want to be measured on. How do we hold ourselves accountable? And accountable to each other, to the district, to our stakeholders. So perhaps that's something as well. And my thoughts were that we could tweak that and conceivably send something out by next week that we can all look at, review, and complete, and then also report back, because if we're just gonna send out evaluation and not collect the data that it provides, it's not going to help inform what needs to be done going forward. So you're right, that is a really long document. I just sent that out for background information. So I'm looking at everybody else to help tweak that substantially so that we can have a working, usable instrument to start with. So trustees, Trustee McOwen.
So yeah, we've done, I mean, over the years I've been a board member, I've seen various iterations of this, usually done in conjunction with a retreat, which the superintendent puts together. I think the retreats are very effective. And I think that it's important that we continue, as we have done, to hold a retreat at least once a year, sometimes more than that, where we have, candid discussions about our functionality. And I have no objections to doing that in writing with more frequency. I mean, the way I think about it, we basically we report, I mean, legally we report to like nobody, right? But practically we really report to three constituencies. One is the public at large, right? So it's up to the public to tell us how we're doing as a board, and they do that through public comment, and they do that through private conversations, and they do that through voting, and they do it through all sorts of ways. And the way we improve that is what you just mentioned, is better customer service, and clear meetings and better communications and all that. The second constituency we have is Dr. Hamilton, right? Our main employee, the only person that we have direct jurisdiction over. So I always am grateful to hear his comments, publicly or privately, as to how we're doing as a board, which he does give us. And I'm curious, Dr. Hamilton, if you think it might be helpful in terms of board functionality for us, for maybe us to work together to come up with a list of maybe, I don't know, 5 questions, just some short list as a check. What do you think a functional board looks like? And what do you want to see in the board that supervises you, so that we can stay on track? And when I say we, I mean the collective board at any given point in time.
That's very interesting. I would certainly be open to that. I think the NISBA has a very nice standard relative to the functions of the board and ideal board superintendent relationships and how to evaluate and assess that. And that's kind of been my Bible, if you will. So I would certainly like to look at what they've put forward and then manage that in this conversation relative to my input on a board evaluation tool. I think that would be a great way to do it, actually.
Yeah. And I know you've shown us that before, and we've had these discussions, and they're productive and helpful, but it might be helpful to have something reduced very concisely to writing, and to like, listen, in order for me to be a good superintendent, this is the kind of board I need, right? Like in a very simple way, especially for new board members, because I mean, no matter what happens in the election, we're getting new board members.
Right.
And we go through it every year, and there's always a growing process. Process. Anyway, and the third constituency we have, right, is each other. I expect certain things of my fellow board members, and they should expect certain things of me. And that's an area where we haven't done, I feel, as much kind of development or discussion. Part of that depends on year to year because the board members change sometimes. But that's the part I think that we have put in the so-called parking lot during several of our retreats, the discussion. So I think that when the time comes to onboard our new board members, whoever they are, with a retreat, if it's just a Zoom retreat, that's fine. But at some point we're going to have, we should make sure that when we do that onboarding process, that all 9 trustees have a discussion about what we expect from each other too. We've touched on that in different ways, but we've never really kind of fleshed it out, I think.
I think it's important to clarify what those expectations are, especially because you generally have new trustees joining every year. And I think this is an opportune time to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Any other trustees would like to share their thoughts? Trustee Mitchell?
Yeah, well, I want to say when I first saw this job application, I mean this, because it was huge, and I was like, oh my God, I need to get my resume. Let me get my resume out so I can get these answers correct. But no, I think it's a great tool, and I agree that early on in the new trustees onboarding, this would be a great tool, because when you're coming on, like myself, I knew nothing about what was going on. I've been watching you guys for the past school year, and this would be a great tool because you kind of have a guideline or roadmap to show what you should be doing or what you should be ranking up and cranking up. It's never enough. You can never do enough, but it will be a great tool. I love it. I think it's great, a great idea, and it's definitely a good starting point. We should hopefully be able to do it online as well, not just have to print it out, do we?
Right. We'll figure that out. We'll see if we can create a PDF fillable form of some type.
Yeah.
Possible, especially if it's 1 or 2 pages. That should be something that's easy enough to gather and then tally the results. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Trustee Mitchell. Who else? Munoz Patterson, did you want to say something? Did you want to? I thought I saw.
No, well, I'm having connectivity problems.
Right.
So I hear like, look up, kind of like you guys are at the bottom of the ocean sometimes. So I'm trying really hard to follow, but I will say that, it's funny, like I was reading this and I think it was the first page that was talking about our goals and how we're, how we have achieved them. And what's funny is a lot of this as a board, because again, I think oftentimes we forget that we may all have different things that we're focused on. We may all have different ways to get there, but the fact of the matter is we're all really geared to get to the same place. And I think that's always what we figure out when we get to our retreats, that we're always, I have dogs barking. We're always at the same, we always get to the same goal where we're like, listen, this is where we want to get to. We might not always agree necessarily how to get there. But I think it's funny because I was reading it and I'm like, oh no, we totally do that. We totally do that too. So.
Thank you for that. Okay. I'm sorry. Trustee White, did you want to say something? You have to unmute your microphone. I think Trustee White is having technical issues. Trustee White, did you? No? Okay. Trustee McOwen, go ahead. You go in the meantime.
I just wanted to say that I think the form is fine. I mean, I know the attachment's 18 pages, but only 5 pages of it are really the evaluation part. I think it's a perfectly fine starting place. I don't think we need to spend time reinventing it. If you just fill out those 5 pages, it would take like 20 minutes and be done. But again, I think that's a starting point. That's not an ending point, right? That's a nice place to start.
Correct.
And you use that in a discussion.
Right. Okay, good. All right. I don't know what happened to Trustee White. I can't see her or hear her, but at some point.
Don't worry. I'm in and out.
Okay. All right. So
go on the next.
Okay. So I'd like to go back to the customer service discussion that we had. If there are any other comments about the board evaluation, and we'll get that, like I said, soon. In this era, this new normal that we're entering in, we had talked about having a customer service center at the district. And Dr. Hamilton, I'd like some of your thoughts on this, because I'd like to know, how can we return to that and continue with that proposal and our goal to be more customer centric and friendly. And I know that we do a lot, and I think we do a lot really well, but there's always opportunities. So
I've actually, thank you for that. I've actually tasked each cabinet member to talk about their standards with their specific departments. And particularly those departments where they are the front line of where folks come in, they're the front line of defense, so to speak, where people get the first impression of our district in the area of student services, HR, and special education. Those are our busiest areas. And that's where people often have their greatest level of frustration or their greatest welcoming experience. So we've been working on establishing that model. Frankly, the pandemic has been great. Our customer service rate has gone up tremendously. But we are still working on putting a receptionist in place to help manage how we navigate the district. And I know the board, we had that conversation a while ago. We just didn't fill the position yet. But one of the challenges that we continue to have is people navigating the district and not getting passed off from one person to the other, because by then frustrations build and it just feels very, very impersonal when that happens. So we're working to identify what those barriers are that may cause people to have negative experiences with our district, and then gnawing away at those barriers systematically and organizationally so that we have systems in place, and to really provide training for our central office staff, which we don't do a very good job at, frankly. We train our teachers, we train our TAs, our principals have PD, but our support staff in central office, they may get training on how to do their functions, but they don't get a lot of training on customer service and interacting and problem solving and de-escalating. So we've been working to identify opportunities for that. I personally looked at the model that the Waldorf Astoria uses, and what's the other chain? I can't think of it right now, but they have the best training, customer-friendly.
Is it Disney?
modules. No, it's not Disney. It's one
Disney?
of the hotel chains. Waldorf and what's the other one? High-end.
Marriott,
Nope.
Hilton.
Nope.
Four Seasons.
Nope. Come on. Oh my goodness.
Holiday Inn.
Anyway, I went online, I found their model. I can check the emails and find it. But I found the model that they use.
Hotel 6.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, you can text us
But
later.
I found their model, and it was just really too expensive.
Right.
So I was looking to see how we could, if there was a way we could replicate that or find a cheaper way to do it for our central office staff.
So Dr. Hamilton, I have a question for you, because oftentimes I find, especially in this time when we are concerned about our budget, where there's still so much uncertainty we don't know about, oftentimes I think that it's something very simple we could do that doesn't require a lot of money, and that's just empathy. You know, having a little bit of empathy for the person who comes before you. And that, I know that requires some training and some mindfulness, but it shouldn't be that expensive to sort of incorporate within our district as one of our values and one of our priorities. I don't know, what are your thoughts?
I think that makes sense. I mean, there are clearly some things that we can do. There are certain things that are just standard in terms of how you greet people, those sorts of things. But I really wanted to, from my perspective, I wanted a model, a module that we could consistently use so that it's not a one-stop shop kind of thing, so that there would be an ongoing module that we would follow, so that when people left or people came in, we would have a way of monitoring when we need to redo that scheduling, that training. Because what happens with the modules is it gives you an idea where these 25 people went through module number 1 and now they move on to module number 2. Well, by the time they get to module number 2, there may be 4 more people who need to go back to module number 1. And that's where we drop the ball sometimes. We don't go back and orientate new people as they come on. And next thing you know, you have this cycle of people who have been enculturated in an atmosphere that isn't necessarily what we want to do, because now that new group has developed their own norms and rituals and routines that sometimes compromise the quality of training. So it's a model that I created when I was leading PD, was called long-term, intensive, and personal, so that the training was designed to be long-term. It was intensive, meaning you got down to all levels, and starting at the top and all the way to the lower levels of the organization. And it was personalized, so that people were able to select certain things in the modules that made sense based on how they are evaluated and assessed. And that's why the evaluation process is so important, because when people are given feedback by their supervisors, that feedback has to really be very thoughtful about the things that are observed with their interaction with the public and with each other, and how well they maintain the mantra or the models that we've established in the district. So that's my robust approach. And we can talk about how to scale that down and make it more palatable in our current environment where money is so limited. But the other thing we have to really do, and this is another conversation that we have to have, and we probably need to have it in several ways, is priorities. Like, how do we establish our priorities, and where do we want to put the budget dollars?
Trustee Miller?
Well, one of the things that I was just thinking back to graduate school when I had to, well, actually, yeah, graduate school, when I went back to school, and all of a sudden I had to take an online plagiarism test or something that you have to complete. And so I was thinking, if we could just have something to start with, that's just a basic tool like that, at the beginning of every school year, before any school year starts, all the people have to take, all the people that are designated that have to go through X training, whether it's empathy training or, just answering the phone or customer facing or dealing with parents or de-escalation. You could have these like online things that you just click, and then we know that each employee has completed the task. And I think we could probably start with something as simple as, that 10-minute training that just reminds people, if they don't have it. Anyway, I think it's just a good refresher. And I think it's something that I think I had to take it the couple of years I was in grad school. I had to take it every year. So that kind of model, so it's not too intense. I mean, I get what you want to do, and I would love to do that as well. But we don't have a champagne pocketbook now.
Yeah, so, I mean, it didn't fall off the wayside, but it kind of didn't make its way up, frankly, on our list of things going on, based on all the other things that we're working on. I think once we get some stability in HR, and we're pretty much there, which needs to be where I think is our one-stop shop for how those things happen, when they happen, and just putting systems in place. We can certainly look at those things or create our own, frankly, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we need it at the building level too.
For sure.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but yeah, my job, we take those type of modules often, and then sometimes we take the same ones every year. So you just keep repeating them just so people can get a reminder. So I agree, and we also need to do that at the building level. But we had talked about that a while back, and I think that we discussed having some of the parent liaisons in central office to try to, because they know everything. They know who to call and what to do. So, I mean, just until we get some groundwork or our feet on the ground, maybe something like that, they can go to central office and for a day and rotate. Something like that. I mean,
we can talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have money for customer service department.
But it goes down to telling everyone to say good morning or good afternoon.
Right.
When somebody walks through. It's simple as that.
Well, even turn around and acknowledge it. Just turn around and just say, I see you here. Give me a minute.
I know. And now put your head down on the desk. the next time go to camera.
Yeah.
Now, it's we need practice, but teach them how to say afternoon and good.
Trustee McCowen, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to make sure this is an important discussion, obviously, and everyone can be better at people management and being more polite and friendlier, etc. Like everyone can benefit from that kind of training. But I don't want to lose part of what we talked about too. If from what I hear from the community, some of the frustrations are, yes, people are, sometimes you get a rude person. That's a frustration, sure. But a more common frustration is just no communication. It's either literally no one answers the phone. It's not people being rude to me. It's
Yes.
literally is nobody answering the phone at all. Or it's somebody being very polite to me, but then, and promising to answer my question, promising to get back to me, promising to resolve the issue, and then nothing happens. And I call 6 times, and I keep getting promises that never results in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a bigger issue than just people people training, people skills training. And that has to do with kind of infrastructure. I mean, physical infrastructure, but is there what is the phone number that people call when they have questions that will actually be answered by a human and actually directed to somebody who can answer their question, right? I think that's what we were talking about initially, at least. I think we were talking more about that than we were about just being polite. Obviously, people need to be more polite. But,
well, polite is returning people's calls. And
yeah, but answering the phone first is step one, right?
Yeah. Well, then maybe the system, I mean, I don't know, do people use while you were out? I'm dating myself, the while you were out pad that says so-and-so called, there's their number. I mean, we used to have it with carbon in it, so there would be a record of all the calls you got. I mean,
actually, we still use that in the central office because we have a box full of them in the safe.
But it seems like we could benefit a lot, which would not cost any money, by just improving our telephone directories and our email directories at the building level, where at the beginning of each school year, the parent liaisons can hand each parent a piece of paper, right, or email them a list and say, if you have this kind of question, call here. If you have this kind of question, call here. And obviously, a lot of those numbers would be building specific, but a lot of them would be district wide.
Right. Well, we will definitely put this on our list of priority for cabinet to process and put practices in place that address this. And again, I think we have to model it at central office first, in my view, so that schools then understand what the standard is and then hold people accountable for it when they don't meet those expectations.
I agree, and a lot of every building is going to get the same type of. I mean, obviously the building needs are different, but they're going to get the same categories of questions over and over again. So it would make sense for each building to just handle the same categories of question in a similar way. That totally makes sense.
Somebody has their phone on. Can somebody just mute their mics when you're not speaking? Please mute their mic. I'm hearing feedback from somewhere. So. I don't know. There. Okay, it's quiet. All right. Sorry about that. It was just a lot of feedback coming through. Trustee Munoz, did you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes. I just wanted to say I had the great fortune of having to reach out to both registration and the tech support team in the last week and a half. And the response was phenomenal. It was quick and painless and, well, I mean, as painless as it can be when your kid's password doesn't work and then they find out the next day they have twice the amount of work the next day. Anyway. But that was fantastic. And the other thing is we talked about a parent resource center too. And that was something that we've discussed ad nauseum. And the reality is some of this may also be, some of these issues may be alleviated by having a parent resource center. And that's when we talked about having the parent liaisons coming into the center and, kind of rotating somebody through and having somebody always there who can answer those types of questions. And from my understanding, I believe that funding has already been secured. So that would be something that we should definitely be looking for this space. And I think that was the biggest issue where we were going to actually put them.
Right.
No? Okay.
And it's not a big space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we discussed it with Dr. BC. There's definitely money there. Well, we need to make that a priority. I'll talk to.
We have, the one thing I just want to share, not by way of an excuse, but just to ask you to keep on mind, we have so many balls in the air right now.
Right.
And it's not to minimize anything, but I don't want anyone to think that, that wasn't given attention. There's, we've got tax collections, budget, distance learning, new hires, a new school coming on board, rezoning, potential budget cuts. There's a lot of stuff going on, and period. There's a period right there.
Right, don't mean to pile on.
That's plenty, that's plenty, that's plenty.
Are you saying you left your Superman cape in your other closet, or where do we?
Yeah, it's in the district. I'll pick it up Monday.
Please do, you need it.
Oh, Dr. White Wallace said it's the Ritz-Carlton.
That's what it is.
She just put it on chat. She said Ritz-Carlton.
Thank you. That's exactly what it is.
Okay, that one.
Right. So unless trustees have any other comments to
Were we talking about the trustees' goals? How did we get into customer service?
That was part of it. At the beginning.
Okay.
That was part of it. I mentioned we were talking about the board self-assessment, but also customer service, because that's another way that we also measure our performance and accountability, right? We respond to stakeholders, various stakeholders, as Micah, Trustee McCollum, very, clearly specified. So that's part of it. And I wanted to just continue that conversation so that it doesn't just get parked. There are a lot of things that we parked. We had many conversations about various topics, and that's one that sort of got parked for a little bit. So I just wanted to bring it back up to the surface. And again, it's just to bring it forward so that we could think about what else we can do as we enter a new academic year. So again, more for us to think about and consider. So if there are no other comments, then I'd like to conclude the roundtable now. Thank you everybody for your comments and for your insightful thoughts. We will continue our conversation. Trustee McCollum, did you want to say one more thing?
I just have one unrelated thing before we go into exec, that's all.
Yeah.
Now?
Oh, go ahead, yes, please.
Just, Dr. Hamilton, I meant to ask you earlier, do you have potential candidates already in mind for a student board member for the upcoming year? That's going to be very soon.
Actually, no, we don't. We have another meeting tomorrow, I think it is, actually. We have a student group meeting tomorrow, so we'll add that to the agenda, but we have not identified another student rep yet or potential rep yet.
Yeah, I think it's critical. It's more important than ever before to have a close connection for us to understand what they're going through and how they're dealing with or loving or hating the things that are happening in the district. We need to know.
Yes.
Wasn't the alternate is a junior this year. She'll be back. Didn't we have an alternate for Nick?
We
Really?
did have an alternate for Nick, and I believe she is a junior, actually.
Yeah, she's at STEAM.
Mame, yeah.
So Mame would be available. She was already nominated and voted by her peers.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I'll talk to her tomorrow. She'll be in the group.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your comments this evening. Mr. McCormick, we need to enter into executive session this evening.
Yes, we need a motion to enter an executive session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining and negotiations with the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers and a special education matter.
And advice from legal advice from counsel.
Yeah.
Motion, is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Opposed, abstained? Okay, motion carries. How long will we need for executive session? How much time will we spend?
Madam President, the board will need to come back and take action on one item if you guys choose to move forward with that. This is a special education item.
Okay. So how
We're probably about an hour in an exec.
is it possible for us to address the one action item in exec and then come back and vote, or how would we logistically handle this? We've done this in the past. That might be more efficient instead of waiting the hour and coming back.
Right.
So can we do that first?
Yep, that makes sense. Mr. McCormick, if you can just set up well, we could do it in exec. How did we do that before?
We have moved out of executive session and we've recorded it on here, and we've attached it to the playback on the other end.
Okay, that works.
All right.
Okay. So this concludes this part of the meeting until we return to vote on the one action item.
Okay, very good.
So I will see everyone in executive session, and thank you everyone who has observed our meeting this evening.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Yes.
You.
Thank you and good night.
Right.